Got it. Awesome. Welcome to this weekly non-duality Zoom with Don Garland and me. Thank you for coming, everybody. Got a few people in the Zoom, so you can join us in the Zoom or on YouTube. And let's see, please keep your microphones muted until invited to speak. This is being shared live on YouTube, so by asking a question, you are giving consent. We encourage you to raise your hand virtually after the brief introductions, and then you can unmute yourself, turn on your camera, and ask your question. Alternatively, you can write your questions in the chat on YouTube or in the Zoom. This is for entertainment purposes only. No medical advice is given. And with that, I will pass it to Dawn, who will give a non-duality introduction. Thank you.
So, yeah, non-duality is the end of seeking. It's the end of a lot of things. It's the end of the person. It's the end of the boundary line. It's the seeing of love. It's the realization of everything really that you've ever wanted in life is realized in that moment when the self is gone. There is just this boundlessness that is a kind of coming home. And so in this seeing, the stillness of everything is seen, and it's a state of rest. It's not state, but it's just coming into where you are. It's so that's where the fulfillment is. Everything is enough. It's enough to sit. It's enough. Whatever is arising, there is only what is arising. So the story kind of falls away, which was the original identification. So we saw, in identified life, or identified basically with the mind, with the story, which is time. And so the identity falls away from that and dissolves entirely, and just leaving whatever is there, whatever is going on. And so everything is seen in its aliveness. That's literally seen, and stillness is literally seen. The beauty and perfection and everything is seen and known. So there's nothing, it's seen that it's nothing is happening, and yet, life continues. There never was anything happening, and yet life goes on. So you're not living from the psychological self. Before you were living from that, so it tends to be in the background. It can be accessed. It's still important. That's what we relate from in relationships, which continue. So, but it's, there's commonly in the description of this and in the story of this happening, which is a non-happening, there's a before and an after. There's usually a change. The mind does not have the power it had before, so the mind tends to can completely collapse in this. This time collapses in this, and so that, which brings peace in itself. And we've all known this to some extent. We were born into this, and most people get little mini glimpses of this, or just a few seconds of just the peace and the stillness that's there. But this is, so it's the end of self, and I think that's probably all I want to say right now. I'll hand over to Walter.
Thank you, Dawn. Let's see. Well, there's nothing to defend, nothing to prop up, nothing to claim or own. I hear a lot of expressions of non-duality, and I realize not all the same. So the way that it's seen here is everything, it's just this one outpouring, this one happening. And whatever's being said in this meeting is this one happening. It's not separate individual happenings. There are no separate autonomous individuals. There is no separate existence. It's hard to describe, but it's this beautiful song being sung. And just like, you know, the band is being played. You know, the band's not playing the music, it's the band is being played. The instruments are being played by no one. You know, or a ballet, it's like the dance is being danced, but no one's dancing the dance. It's just dancing itself. I see life living itself. And there's just no one in that. There's just no one doing that. And I don't have a lot to say about it either. But I think the point is, you know, I was speaking to somebody earlier, and just this idea of that there's a place to get to, or there's something better than this. There's just nothing other than this. This is all there is. There really is no, you know, if I'm sitting here feeling discontent, then that's what's apparently happening. But there's no one here feeling discontent. It's just discontent. And that's okay. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay to be in bliss, but I don't hold that carrot of bliss out there that this is, you know, you're not there yet. There's a lot of messages out there that will suggest that you're not there yet, that there's still more to be attained and realized. And maybe there is, but in this immediate experience, in this present moment, this is all there is. And it's being done not by me, not by anyone. It's just what's happening. But there's no actuality to any of it. You know, we come up with concepts, and then we hold those concepts like, oh, there's something called bliss. There's something called enlightenment. There's something called liberation. And it's made up. It's a made up thing that we feel like we have to attain, and it doesn't exist. There's no such thing as enlightenment. There's just this. There's just me sitting in a chair ranting about the fact that there's no enlightenment. And whatever thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations are arising in this immediate experience is all there is. So the fact that, you know, we create these imaginary places that we need to get to, you know, I think we create, not we create, but mind creates these imaginary problems and then comes up with imaginary solutions. So the imaginary problem is separation, and then we come up with this imaginary solution that we need to drop this separate individual sense of being a individual or whatever. And that's all made up. It's already perfect, whole, and complete. It's already always just this. And apparent progress can be made. Apparent psychological work can be done. Apparent healing can happen. And, it's called the pathless path for a reason. You're making an imaginary progress on an imaginary path, but it doesn't exist. It's just this. And it's not even this. This is another bullshit word to get attached to. Any word I use presents a possibility of somebody grabbing onto it and thinking that it's an actual thing to see. I need to see this. I need to understand this. I need to understand, what self-inquiry is, or what these traditions mean. Of course, the ancient traditions have got it right. I can't possibly know that this is all there is. Point being, is it's a never-ending dilemma that the mind creates. So if you're feeling confused or discontent, then that's just this. That's no thing appearing to be discontent, no thing appearing to be confused. And it's perfect. It's perfect confusion. It's perfect discontent. Yeah, I heard a line, it was from the Course in Miracles, I think. In my defensiveness, my safety lies. So when it's seen there's nothing to defend, there's no actual individual person to be anything other than what it is, what it seems to be. It can't be other than what it seems to be. And it only seems to be. And that's all there is. I don't know what else to say, but with that, we will open it up for questions and comments. Please feel free to jump right in. And we already got a few in the chat. Maybe I'll go to those first. If there's anyone in the Zoom, you can raise your hand. But I'll start with these. So the first question, this seems to agree with the Buddhist concepts. Yes. As such, sitting still and watching oneself in the world reveals what the concept more clearly. Enlightenment is the concept of non-duality. Enlightenment is knowing this is just this. I don't know. What do you think? Buddhist concepts?
I don't know, concepts. Yeah. I don't know. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah.
All right.
Next question.
Next question. Type. Go ahead. Type it in the chat. Jump in the Zoom. All right, Chet raised his hand. Go ahead, Chet.
Hi, Walter. just when you said that, there are different messages that you're hearing about non-duality, different descriptions of it. Why do you think that is? If it is a seeing of the oneness that should be the same for everyone. I mean, I guess some people might just be making it up and not actually having seen the oneness at all. But maybe, I mean, do you think it's different for different people? Do you think it could be a different experience of seeing that oneness or having the self drop away? And that's why they're sort of interpreting it differently?
Well, I just think that maybe people have come to this from different places. But I hear, I guess what I talk about is just what already is the case. And I don't even speak like, I won't name names, but there's people that talk about that there's an energy in these meetings, and sometimes that energy can loosen up this sense of being a me or something like that. And I don't even care about that. I'm not trying to wake anybody up, because I think it's always already.
Mm.
I don't care about enlightenment or waking up or dropping knees. If it's, how can I put this? If it's like you have all these crayons, you ever have one of those pens that has all these different colors in it, and you can write with all these different colors at the same time? That's what I see life is like. It's like all these expressions just coming out of this one no thing. And it's already happening. To say, oh, if you come to my meeting, there could possibly be an energetic shift. That to me has nothing to do with what I'm saying. So that's what I mean. There's different, I think people focus in on different parts of it. Like a lot of people with good reason will focus on how the individual can have a better experience or can improve their lives. That's a different message too, but obviously has value. I just think it's descriptive. So not really about if you try harder, if you spend more time meditating, if you listen to the teachings more, if you come to more of the meetings, if you read more of the books, that's not what I'm saying. It's done. It's finished. It never started. So
Do you think that some of the people who do say those things that you're not saying, do you think it's possible they might have been awakened, but are for some reason, through conditioning or some other motive, are saying those things? I mean, is it possible they have actually been awakened, but through conditioning or through I don't know, because of the quirks of their own personal history, they are nevertheless saying stuff that may not really be, suggesting that there's a path even though there isn't one, and all that. Are they sort of misled? Have they somehow been kind of so wowed by the awakening that they don't know what they're saying, kind of thing?
I don't know about that. I mean, I could be totally wrong. Maybe they're right. Maybe there is an energetic shift. I don't know. It could be a way of getting you to go to the meeting, though, if you think there's a special energy in the meeting. But I'm not accusing anyone of that. Someone's looking for the Zoom link in the YouTube. If anyone can help that person out and put it in there. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, Chet. I can't comment too much on other people.
But fair enough. I didn't mention anyone specifically anyway. So
Yeah, I don't know why that is. I just, I talk to so many people. I just I feel like, maybe I'm only speaking the way that it's seen here, but it's not like a traditional path that I'm talking about. So for what it's worth.
yeah, thank you.
Okay. Oh, Andy. Oh, shit. Oh, I see. I don't know what to do with that. Yeah, thanks for sharing the link, but I think they need it in the YouTube. Maybe I'll try to throw it in there. Don't be shy.
I had a point.
Yes.
I really noticed this morning in the interview that you gave, where it does seem like there's an assumption of free will and choice and an agent that can do something. And I just wanted to know if you could, because that seems to be the difference. Like there's either a dangling carrot for someone, or there's what you're saying, which feels a lot more something, if I could say true. I don't know what that means, but it just feels like there's no dangling carrots. But then this assumption, oh, well, there's people and they can do things. And if they do things, then they can achieve things. And that all feels like if that's the message, well, then that's the teaching. And if that's the teaching, then it's still implying the thing that's not real. I don't know, is that your experience or how does that come across? Or
So what is, say that again.
well, just if there's an assumption of an agent with choice, something is confused. It's a question though. This is, I'm not saying it. I'm just asking,
Yeah.
like, isn't that feel like that's the core confusion? There's
I just-
somebody who can do something.
Yeah, I feel like I just agree with you. I concur. Don, what do you think about that?
Yeah, the same. But it gives the message of that isn't, it's very misleading as well to the mind anyway. But yeah, ultimately, yeah, it's true. It doesn't mean there's nothing you can do. Maybe not about, awakening or whatever, but if you're intelligent, you'll do something to change your circumstances. You know what you can do to make things more likely. And we still think like that. But it's known. It's deeply known that there's this is just arising. This is just happening. It's paradoxical in that sense because the life continues, doesn't it? And negotiating life continues. And if you give up on that, you're in big trouble, aren't you? So I don't know, but yeah, it doesn't make sense whatever way you look at it to assume responsibility for something. And so yeah, but it's the ultimate seeing in a way that there's no one. So how could there be agency in an ultimate sense, so but it sounds kind of horrible. it seems to negate the very precious thing about life, but it doesn't, you know, like that we are authors of our own life, and can keep people stuck, I think, as well, in whatever they're stuck in, which so many of us are stuck in something, right? Like, so even after awakening, some people are stuck in something one day, like, so yeah. Even though that there's no one stuck anywhere, there's no one to be stuck. So but yeah, people get really hung up on that. I mean, I just hate that aspect of it, because it's, I don't know, it just sounds so cold, I suppose, to the mind. And what do we know? What's beyond this anyway? You know, like, who knows what this is? And there are all sorts of other questions that can come up. What is this?
You know, if it's in, could use, well, in the interview, we were, I guess, using the example of tennis a lot today. And if it's in somebody's programming, conditioning to practice, and they have the, you know, physical attributes or whatever, and they're in shape, and they're just wired that way to really practice and become an expert, then that's what's happening. There's no individual in there that needs to make a decision like, oh, I'm going to practice. It's an apparent decision that's being made by an apparent person who becomes a tennis expert. And then another person may really want to become good at tennis, but just not have all those things that are necessary. Maybe they don't have the drive. Maybe they don't have the determination. Maybe they don't have the capacity for whatever reason. And then they don't end up becoming really good at tennis. So it's just what's happening. But if that person goes and takes lessons and they're learning, it seems like, oh, that person's getting better. They're making all these choices and decisions, and they're motivated, and they're really inspiring, and they're dedicated. It's an appearance, but there's nobody in there making a choice to become better at tennis. It's just what seems to be happening. So that's the same as, you know, if you're an amazing meditator, it could be the same thing. But that's why I said there's nothing to defend. Oh, Betty has her hand up. Jump right in.
Hi, Walter.
Oh, hello.
Walter, I'm having a hard time with this name. AKA Cap. How are you? It's good to see you and Dawn, even virtual.
Good to see
Can
you
hear me
too.
okay?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. I don't mean to make light of a serious situation, but you know, I always think about the uncompromising drummer. And one day I was like sitting there and I was thinking, like, I don't know if you even remember this, but we're talking like about you know, these radical non-dual speaker, you know, like a person, like say, and they called you up and they're like, hello, apparent Walter. This is illusory Joe. With my parent. You know, and I mean, you know, some of it really is, you know, it just sounds ridiculous. I mean, let's face it, you know, come on. We all got to walk around the world and deal with all this garbage, you know, and to start saying you're illusory and this is a parent, that's a parent, forget it. So anyway, I just want to get that off my chest. And the other thing I wanted to say was, you know, a couple of weeks ago, I was comparing you to a guru. It was in the chat. And all the people that whoever was listening, they were getting all ticked off. They were like, he's not Hare Krishna, and don't you dare, like whatever. Because I said there was a picture of you with Howard. It's a couple of recordings down. And you're head to head, like, however you ran the picture, and you look just like that guru, Neem Karoli Baba, in that picture, because he's always slouching down with his blanket. And that's what I meant by it. And then maybe too, there's some kind of guru energy. I don't know. You talk to all these spiritual people all the time, and you've got to do all that research, because your research is fabulous. I mean, the only one I caught a little bit this morning. I caught a little bit of the guy yesterday, Frank Yang. He had something, when I went to his website, he had something like 10,000 recordings or something. I don't even know what. My phone didn't go that far, but like, you knew exactly which things to like hone in on. It was like fabulous. And the guy before that, whatever. So I just want to say thanks. And I got Dawn, all her videos lined up to when I get to them too. And that's what I just want to say. Thank you guys so much. And thanks for all the laughs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Goodbye. Yeah, there's no need to walk around saying everything's apparent. Yeah, I don't get that either, because it's not about the language. It's not about saying the words or even understanding the concepts or what they mean. So yeah, if people are kind of talking the talk, it's that's fine too, but I have no interest in that. And if someone's just like speaking to me privately and they say apparently every other word, I usually ask them to stop, because I don't really understand why they would do that. It'd just be normal, right? You see, to Jack's point, there's no one to just be normal. But, if so-called body-mind organism can take that in, and it's applied, then it's applied. And if it's not, it's not. It's not up to anyone to do that, of course, but things do happen. Change does apparently happen.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable that the message is imitated. I mean, it just is, because that's what we do as humans, we imitate. And of course, off screen, you're not like this. So all that speak drops away. And so that's the difference. Sometimes you can tell the difference between, kind of true awakening and not. It's like people talk normally. They're like, it's just normal. It's normal life. And there's none of that's changed. Absolutely not. It's a return, and in a way, it's an absolute return to normal life. But there are obvious differences there as well. So,
Sure. Could I just ask for you, has it sounds like the experience of the awakening has kind of modified over the years? Like, I think you said initially you were just lost in bliss, and has that sort of stopped now? And it's very hard to sort of understand. I know I'm not meant to understand it, but how has it changed for you over time?
No, I mean, I wouldn't say it's modified. Bliss comes and goes. there's still bliss states here. But yeah, okay, initially, they were very heavy, I would say, actually quite consuming. So maybe the level of absorption was different, you know, that comes and goes too, like, but there's always that, but it varies in intensity. So no, I mean, there's less, I mean, obviously there's more desire to stay, do you know, like with that in a way, not that anybody could do that, but it's such an absolute break with what went before, even though there's no before. So in a way, that was a beautiful period, a period of grace where it's just total no thought, you know. So thought comes and goes here, which I like, because I like having it as well as not having it. So it's all good. So it's not, the fascination with the subject has gone, even though I'm here speaking. There are more interesting things in life, but at the time there wasn't, during that period, the honeymoon period, which is common. It is there's a fascination, a sort of subdued fascination, a quiet fascination with the change that's not reflected upon, that just is, because it's total absorption. So yeah, I think it does over time become more normal. I mean, anything does, even though it's it's the timeless. In spite of that, there's a kind of, things just continue. So
it sounds like you're almost saying it's not that, it's still a normal physiological process in a way, because your body's becoming habituated to this sense of non-duality, so you're not lost in so deeply absorbed in bliss all the time, maybe. So do you know what I mean? It's almost like it is a biological process almost.
Well, no, I mean, it's so individual, this, like, it really is. And, the more time, also, if time is spent in sort of idle mode, whether that's, literally doing nothing, there's a tendency to drop here really into the absorption. So it depends on how much time you've got to do that as well. And I think that's quite common. I wouldn't want to universalize that either. So, if you're away for a couple of days and you're not doing, I think it could be a couple of days of not necessarily bliss, because bliss doesn't necessarily accompany a no mind state. Like it can be no mind and bliss, or no mind without bliss, or just really heavy absorption. I mean, it just varies. The states come and go, and they're not that anyway. Some people never get any bliss, and some people never get any no mind, so it's, who can tell, like, what's going to happen? It might be the shift actually isn't particularly dramatic. It might just be that it's seen that there's nothing happening, there's no one, there's everything and nothing. It could be very ordinary and harder to identify because of it. But yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know.
That's the fascinating thing, that it does seem to be very different for different people. I mean, I can't possibly know that for sure, but just hearing different people talk about it, they do, as Walter was saying, they describe it very differently. And not just because some of them want you to, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go on. No, go on. You go on. What was it?
No, I was just going to say, it's not just because some of them want you to come to meetings and possibly pay large amounts of money for the privilege.
Everybody wants that. We all want you to come to meetings. Some of us are better at that than others. Like, I mean, it's not like, I mean, any meeting is a kind of seduction, isn't it? I mean, it's something, is anyone, maybe UG Krishnamurti, because people went round to see him in the house and stuff. I don't know, like, if you're on a platform, you're online doing this, you obviously want people to show up. So it's never neutral. Some people are more comfortable with success or money than other people. And so I wouldn't judge anyone on the message. Maybe you want to give all the kind of mystical stuff, or that's your flavor, that's your style. My style is to kind of make it more experiential, like to describe it in terms of the story, perhaps, even though the story is the thing that's seen through, but just to kind of show it from that perspective more, maybe. Because it's less, to me, it seems less mystifying, and I love kind of, you know, I don't like being mystified. I don't, you know, I like to see things as put as clearly as possible and as ordinarily as possible. That's my style, but most of the time, I think.
Mm. Do you have, in what I think in your latest video, you said you feel perhaps that you have a sense of mission now about it. Is that right?
Sounds really grandiose. Mission. I don't know. Did I say that? Well, I say lots of things. You can ignore them at the moment. No, I don't. No, I mean, no, not at all. I mean, I don't know. I enjoy doing this. Enjoy is the wrong word, of course, but no, definitely not. I don't feel like I'm on a mission. That sounds, yeah, I don't know. If I am, I'm not doing very well. I don't know, like that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, why? I mean, the thing is that the whole thing of like wanting to convert or wanting to influence, I mean, really that has gone, like that's totally dropped away here, I think. Yeah, pretty much. Good, like, there's nothing to be gained from that. And there's no desire, because that's a big part of normal life. I mean, I see that all the time. People want to convert, people want to spread their beliefs, their ideas, or you know, act as sort of mini teachers in their own way, or you know, in life, which is kind of annoying.
Does that imply that you at one point maybe wanted to try and sort of evangelize or convert?
No, but I think the conversion is very much a part of the human condition. I think it is to a certain extent, you know, follow my desire, and then this with the kind of unconscious message of do not do that, because you create rivalry. That's why rivalry is created, you know, imitation. And so, no, I mean, no, that's a short answer. No, yeah, I mean, because I mean, the mind, the power of belief, I mean, that seems, I think, in most cases to, maybe not, I mean, you see people who are after awakening as well. If they're political animals, they'll still be political animals. I mean, so belief is, you know, strong there, but very often there's a lot of areas of life, there's much more flexibility. There's no need to defend. Maybe that's bullshit, but it depends. Again, it's individual. So, you know, more responding, less reacting. I mean, who cares? Who cares? There's no one here. Do you know, there's no one here to care. Who cares? Like, I don't know, ultimately, because it's much easier to surrender, I suppose. And, you know.
I suppose also, I mean, again, it's so hard to say, but I suppose there are also people, because it seems so often that it's people who have been on some kind of seeking path who talk about having a non-dual awakening. But I guess it's totally possible for someone to have never been a seeker and to come into it and then never talk about it because they don't know what it is, or because they're not really interested in talking about it.
Well, I wasn't a seeker, really. I mean, I'd come across it in maybe a couple of months, but I wasn't a proper seeker. So it was quite a shock. And I didn't quite get what had happened. You know, I was totally new to it. So I think whether you talk about it, maybe you don't have access to the internet. Maybe you're someone who's a doormat who needs a little bit of encouragement. Maybe you're really socially phobic. I don't know, whatever the hell. I mean, there's 100 reasons, you know, there's so many reasons why you wouldn't want to, and being quiet about it doesn't imply humility necessarily. Like, you know, you can be, I don't know, it could be anything going on there. I don't know, like, it's not always the obvious thing. You know.
Were you not always interested in transpersonal psychology? You said something like that. Was it? But I guess you're saying that's a different sort of thing. So I guess that's not necessarily being a seeker, is it? If you're interested in that field of transpersonal psychology or so? Yeah.
I was, when I was a lot younger, I was into that, and then I wasn't, and I went the other way. I was totally dismissive of it, and now I'm more receptive to some of that because of my experiences. But I don't see things in terms necessarily of a process, although in retrospect, some things do seem like a process. So maybe there's some things are and some things aren't, even in spite of this being the timeless. But so yeah, I mean, it's
So you
just,
don't think that contributed to, of course, nothing contributes to the awakening. You don't think that was why you had the awakening then, because you're interested in those sorts of transpersonal psychology and things like that?
no, well, no,
No.
I mean, no, I mean, my story of awakening is a story of kind of, well, maybe, I suppose, anxiety, depression, not being able to live, like finding life unlivable, I suppose. And so that becoming more and more the case, and then almost being unable to cope so entirely. It seemed in the story of time, I could say that I had to give up, I had to surrender. Like there was a moment in which, I mean, you could say that, but it's not true. I mean, because in the saying, it's seen that there's no one who could have done anything, you know, but that in the story of time, that's the story, and it's a typical story. So who knows? I mean, who knows? It's mysterious, isn't it? So, but definitely not an interest in transpersonal psychology, I don't think. Although there isn't, you know, like the effects sometimes I think of when you're expecting something, or you're going to see someone and you have a real belief that they are really in the zone, really beatific or whatever. I mean, sometimes that really does seem to trigger some kind of opening, whether, I mean, usually a glimpse or, and I do think, I mean, you know, there is definitely some energetic phenomenon that does occur. But in the majority of the cases, of course, nothing occurs. So you can't make sense of that. You can't really say anything about it. I mean, you know, and it's empirical evidence, like heartfelt prayer can lead to energetic experiences and maybe a glimpse. Abiding awakening's another matter, but so that meditation, you know, the usual suspects, these things do seem to have an effect in certain people, and it's significant effects. So I'm not totally dismissive of that stuff, because I've seen, and I think a lot of people have, like these, you know, incredible synchronicities that would just be outrageous to dismiss. So I love that. It's just mysterious, this, and, you know, so anyway.
I can definitely see that you can't, there's no way to sort of induce a personal crisis to try to get this. That would definitely be inadvisable and probably quite dangerous. So yeah, thanks for answering that. I'll shut up and see if anyone else wants to talk about or ask any questions.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think you could ever convert anybody to this message. It's a horrible message. There's nobody here. There's no purpose. There's nothing happening. I mean, it's a horrible message. And, you know, I cursed the day I had the glimpse that brought me here, because, you know, it turned your safe, secure world upside down. You know, there's a freedom here. There's a freedom that, you know what, you know, there's no me to have, you know, created any of these monsters, but it's despicable. I mean, it's really, there's just nothing here. There's just nothing here. And, you know, again, I say I cursed the day the glimpse came, because, you know, I buried it so deep inside, because you could never tell anybody. Even when I started to talk about the glimpse in these non-dual circles, people didn't believe me. They questioned it. They said, "Oh, you were having an NDE or you know, or blackout, or it's just it's It's devastating. Hate it.
Whoa, blackout, blackout. That's not great. Like, but yeah.
Yeah, a blackout. That couldn't have happened, but it did. It did happen, and
Yeah,
it
it's good
makes
to get it validated sometimes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it took 20 years to talk about it, and then when I talked about it in a non-dual circle, everybody laughed and questioned it. So just keep it buried with the other things that had to be buried, because that's what happens in this real unreal world. Things have to get buried.
Oh, that's just sad. I mean, a lot of circles that probably wouldn't have happened. It sounds unfortunate because that's devastating, isn't it? And you're not heard. Yeah, that happens a lot in NDEs actually. People keep
what, in a near-death experience?
Well, like with kids as well. Kids are really badly treated when they have them. It seems like real. So yeah.
Oh, when they have a glimpse?
No, I suppose I was talking about NDEs because I was just sort of thinking like, because there's a lot of empirical, evidence around, children, people having that knows, because there's a lot of research money is being poured into it. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, and I'm sure kids have, absolutely, probably those less than 4 and under probably are into the, unreality mostly all the time, bordering on real and unreal. That's just the nature of the innocence of the childhood.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know, it's just leaves, and there's still so many questions, and nothing can ever be answered. It's always the mystery, no matter what it is. Catholicism, Buddhism, non-duality, it's all the mystery, which is exciting in a way. Yeah.
We have a hand raised. Oh, went away. Oh, there is Natalie. Hey, join the conversation.
Hey guys, it's great to see all of you. When the other man that you were interviewing earlier today, I don't think he quite understood the questions, but he probably never could, just because, on a human level, it's hard to convey something like this, because we're using words. But when he was saying intuition, these thoughts just come in. Like, is it from conditioning? Is it coming from nowhere? Who knows? I mean, it's just someone muted me. You know what? It just seems like intuition. You would have to have an idea of the way things were going to be for you to believe or have some sort of perception that, it's an intuitive thought. So, I feel like it just seems like maybe everything's just intuition or no intuition. It's just this aliveness, this moving and doing and all of this. But how could there even really be change when, sorry, my dog wants to sit on my lap again. How could there really be change when we don't know what is next? We don't know what's around the corner. It just seems like, well, this notion of things will change, or this perception shift comes on, but it's like, that's just how it's always been. I don't know. It is really hard to describe. But the way it's kind of felt here is just like things just going on. Really, like no one really is actually doing anything. Like I was going to ask a question before, and then all of a sudden my phone died, and then I had to re-enter the Zoom once it charged up. And, who can plan for these things? Like, who can plan for anything that is going to come about? So the idea of change, is just, I don't know, maybe you guys could talk a little bit about that. Sorry, I'll mute you.
Don, you want to talk about change?
Yeah, well, the idea of change. I mean, it's just paradoxical again. I mean, the idea of change, how exciting and how awful, depending. But I mean, yeah, I mean, there's certain things that are fairly predictable in life, and yeah, ultimately we don't know. I mean, it's just normal. It just goes on, doesn't it? And so, no, maybe I don't, totally subscribe to that. I mean, yes, there is transformation in this, and there's no transformation because it's a changeless, right? But yeah, I mean, there's obviously a change. There's studies done on that. People can talk about this, and yet so it's just yes and no. I mean, it's not neither or. It just can't be. But to sort of say that, there is no change or change is impossible or whatever, like, it's a total. How can you live like that? I mean, that's the only thing, like I say, one of the things we can be certain of is change, death. And, at the end of the day, we're human beings. We're not that, but we are that at the same time. I mean, that's the experience here, isn't it? Of a human being, even though there's no location and there's, no birth, no death in one sense. But it's not just the only way of seeing it. So I don't know. I mean, change is good. Sometimes. Sometimes it's shit. I don't know.
I just thought, like, yeah, it's a confusion of relative and absolute, I think, sometimes, because which are not two, but it's like this. I think there's a thing that says the great way is without preferences. So then a lot of people will try to apply that and try to not have preferences. If you don't like one food, but you prefer another, and to try to like live like you're just totally neutral, like whatever, I have no preferences, it's complete bullshit. Because the body, mind, organism has preferences. Is, like I said, wiring, conditioning, programming, whatever. The way that this meat suit, as Frank liked to say, or meat robot is wired, it's going to do what it likes to do. I love drinking coffee, I prefer coffee over tea. So is it more spiritual if I just say, oh, I don't, they're both the same, it's all an illusion? But see, the great way, the say ultimate reality, I hate all these words because it's all bullshit, it's all concepts, but is without preferences, because it just is completely neutral, because an illusion, one illusion isn't better than another illusion. That just seems very clear. So on the ultimate perspective, one thing is not better than another thing. So there are no preferences. But so I think sometimes these things about choicelessness, awareness, people will, like think they have to be choicelessness. It's just, there's no one to make choices, but choices are made. There's no one to do anything, but doing happens. And there are no preferences, but apparent preferences can arise and appear. It's not, they're not two separate things. Let's see. We got questions in the chat. Sorry. Gotta read them. Okay. Starting with this. Oh, wow. I feel the exact opposite. I met someone who is where you are, non-dual, and it was like everything fell into place. Everything made sense. I haven't lost the I, the ego, and that's okay. I'm not seeking, I'm just being. And I love talking about it and listening to others talk about it. It lights up my life. Anything on that? I don't know if that's a question, but oh, here's a question. How would you discern between an attachment and a preference?
One's an attachment and one's a preference. There you go. Like, what do you want? Like, attachment and a preference. Oh, like, but then I assume that's meant in a kind of negative way. Like, an attachment is, you know, some attachments are good, aren't they? Attachment is a good thing. We need attachment. If you don't have any attachments, yeah. I mean, seen from the non-dual perspective, without the kind of relative, well, there is no attachment. It's just freedom, isn't it? So they're just different things, you know. Some people suffer because they can't attach, you know, and some people suffer because they don't have preferences. They're too scared to have preferences. They don't know what they like. They don't know what they desire because they were never allowed to desire. There was never any space for that growing up. So, I mean, they can be positive and negative things, you know, like, well, preferences is always good. It's always good to have a preference, I think. Or otherwise it's conflict, which can be.
Next question is, what is the voice in the head? Do you want to take that?
The voice in the head, well, people are usually referring to thought then, like maybe the voice in the head, unless it's an external voice or persecutory voice or something like that. Otherwise, you know, I mean, that's just a thinking mind. I think that, I mean, what is it? Like, who knows what it is? It's just what language does when we're taught language, and it doesn't do it for everybody. I think something like, it's quite a high percentage of people who don't even have the voice in the head to begin with. So, you know, some people are more visual, some people have more of that, some people have no thought, never did. So it might just be silence in the head, a lot of feeling in the body. So, but who knows what it is? Yeah, we do know.
Any other questions? We got 12 people in the Zoom, 17 people on the YouTube, so don't be shy. I like to call it the YouTube, by the way. Yeah.
It's so impersonal, voice in the head, even though this is all impersonal. I mean, thought is good. Thought is intensely personal, you know. There's a real intimacy with that. It can be really lovely. I mean, ruminative thought can be painful, whatever. If you've got an inner, you know, a kind of horrible inner critic or something, that part of the psyche that's always giving you a hard time, but you know who you are, you're not good enough, blah blah blah. But thought is, you know, it's nice. We connect over that. We can imagine and we can plan and be creative. I mean, it's just, you know, this makes it sound negative, but to me.
What makes it sound negative?
Voice in the head, it sounds so,
Oh,
I mean, it sounds so like impersonal, like it's not nice to have that. I mean, it can be really nice to have that, and thinking about stuff can be really cool, really exciting and sweet. You know, I don't know. I think maybe after, well, for some people, it's probably pretty neutral anyway. So, but after awakening, I think that there's more of that. Like, you know, I wouldn't want it to be gone completely. I did enjoy that at first when it was gone completely, because that was a novelty and that was new and such a relief, to be honest, to be over with the 24/7, you know. But, you know, it's good. It's good stuff. I mean, who wouldn't choose that? Like, it's after a long period of no thought, it seems kind of natural you'd want thought, like, and you know, it's exciting coming back into the world in a sense, you know, like after sitting on a bench or hanging out in, you know, just total emptiness forever. It's just, it does seem kind of natural that, you know, I can see, makes sense to me in a way, like why some people maybe, if there was reincarnation, why some people would choose to incarnate again. I can't imagine ever doing that if that was an option, but nevertheless, I could see the attraction to that. If really, sorry, you can bring it back to non-duality.
Yeah, I just sometimes don't answer because I think it's going to say the same thing.
Okay.
Voice, hey, Jack.
Yeah.
Oh, you just came on my screen.
Oh, hi.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I heard the cognitive scientist out of the Royal Institute in the UK. He studies the voice in the head and he calls it inner speech. And he said, if we didn't internalize our voice, we'd be saying everything we thought and we'd get in deep trouble in the community. That felt like a useful description or definition of why we have one.
I quite like that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be terrifying, wouldn't it?
Otherwise, we'd be just saying everything.
Oh yeah,
we think.
you'd be free flying.
Oh no. Yeah.
Oh no. Well, it's a good thing to have some filters there.
Right.
Bit of mystery. Bit of mystery is always good, huh?
Yeah.
Knowledge kills desire and all that, you know.
Are there not some people who actually don't have a voice in their head, though? Is that not a thing?
Yeah,
I'm sure I've heard that. And
yeah,
so yeah.
never had it. You know, yeah, I think it's quite a high percentage. Like, I don't know. I think I heard of someone 30%, but like that sounds really, really high. But maybe it's, I don't know, but it's more than we think. And yeah, it's just more feeling in the body instead. And
But
there's
I
knowing
presume
without
those people.
thought.
Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, there's knowing without thought. You don't. I think if you're used to thought all the time, you think you must need it to plan things and do things. Obviously, you know, it can remind you of things or whatever. But there's so much knowing without thought anyway. I mean, you don't. I remember someone saying to me, you couldn't cross the road without thought, and it's like, of course you can. I mean, it's so obvious. I mean, we do that all the time. We're crossing a road, we're thinking about something else, right? I mean, you don't need it for a lot of like normal day-to-day stuff. You function just as well without it, and you know, so
Is that how you were functioning then, Dawn, initially in the first flush of the awakening, where thought was much reduced? Was
it
it
wasn't
this
much
kind of
reduced, it was gone, and most of the time it was gone. It was just gone pretty much 99% of the time. I mean, Gary Weber, he talks about that because I think his is still completely gone, and he functioned as a businessman, whatever he was doing. I think he's a scientist as well, but very well without it. He was quite surprised at how well he did without it, and nobody seemed to notice. I think he was surprised at that. So yeah, I don't know.
So you're saying that we don't need conscious, like the internal monologue, conscious thought at all to function and run businesses and things? That's it. That's astonishing to me. Also sounds amazing.
But it must help in some ways as well. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I never really thought about it like as in that. I mean, it's obviously helpful in certain ways because we're reminded of certain things, so we would get reminders and yeah, and planning. It depends what you're doing, but just in the normal day-to-day, I just mean like, and creative thought can be good, but creativity you know, if you're drawing a painting or whatever, it's just, I mean, it's just coming, or, you know, comes without thought, right? It's just the hand is drawing. I mean, an artist can see that, or, you know, a writer can see that the pen's just writing. When you're in the flow, it's, you know, you don't need thought for that either. It just comes through, right? I mean, I think anyone can see that, you know, there's so much you do. I mean, try it yourself if you can. I don't know, some people have a little bit of room and thought. For some people, they just can't imagine a single second break of it. And, you know,
I think that's the thing for me, that's why I'm having such difficulty sort of imagining that, because I just don't think I can stop it for a second, you know. But I mean, so when you were like first had the awakening, then, I mean, obviously you weren't making huge plans maybe, but just you're saying the day-to-day activity was just happening without the conscious thought and the need to sort of have a monologue, internal monologue.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's totally gone. I think the higher the absorption is, it kind of annihilates thought anyway, in a way. It's just, it can't really survive in that, I think. But, you know, I don't think the sense of self can survive in that for that long. I couldn't see how, because it does take you out of what's here in a way. Well, it doesn't after awakening. That's not true, because it's just what's appearing, right? And, you know, there's still more aliveness, but the sweetest piece, I think, is when the mind's not there and there's just deep absorption. I mean, that's just, you know, in terms of my experience anyway. But I mean, you sometimes find that in the gaze, because the gaze does actually slow down thought. I mean, it takes you out of the thinking mind, takes you out of the left hemisphere of the brain, and so it's hard to think and gaze at the same time. That's why it's used as a technique. It's, you know, there's a reason behind it. Doesn't work for everybody though, for some reason.
So, Dawn, if there's no free will or choice, we're not even responsible for what we say. Whatever comes out is just coming out.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, you can see where it's coming from, though. I mean, you can work on where that's coming from. So say, like, what you say is coming from a defensiveness, or
Yeah.
you can, you know, but
then
there's a sense of control of it, you know, like we don't say everything. We do have some conscious control over that as well, you know.
sometimes.
To a greater or lesser degree,
Yeah.
there's a sense of that, and yeah.
Yeah, I've had to apologize many times.
Stop yourself.
People.
No more.
I even had to apologize to Tim Kliss at his non-duality meeting.
Right, okay, is that fine?
So I'm not responsible. Yeah.
Yeah, but we all assume, I mean, okay, but there's a sense of responsibility for most of us, like, you know, for actions, and if not, we're generally more in the psychopathic kind of, you know, range, or or just in denial, or in some, you know, whatever. But it's, you know, there is a sense of responsibility here. There is that, but not in the sense of the non-dual way of seeing it. But there is that personal responsibility, even though there's no person. I mean, that just goes on, right? Maybe
it's like your conditioning, how you were conditioned. Because after I say something bad, I have to apologize and make amends. You know, the conditioning, you never say, you know, the conditioning takes over.
No, I had to become more responsible. I was irresponsible. I'm more responsible. I mean, responsible, then irresponsible, then more responsible. But yeah. But it's good to be free of that sometimes. Responsible sometimes, occasionally irresponsible. So I want to be, like,
until you have to say you're sorry to a room full of people.
Well, yeah, Well, I don't know. You did. I mean, whether nobody had to, right? But
No, but the conditioning takes over. And I feel
okay, is that your
yeah.
default? You like to apologize, or you don't like to apologize? It just comes out your mouth, and
Yeah, with the conditioning, I did, that wasn't nice. You hurt his feelings,
okay.
Yeah,
Do you
it's
know
all
that? Do
conditioning.
you know you hurt? Do you know you hurt his feelings? Like,
Yeah.
all right, okay. No, fair
Yeah,
enough. Okay.
you know exactly what you said. You don't know why the hell you said it.
Okay.
It just came out like bleh.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can't really be on guard either because you're not there. So, but then like somehow, you did something wrong. The
Fair enough.
conditioning comes in.
Fair enough.
Father, forgive me, for I know not what I do. I mean, really.
Well, it sounds like you do know what you're doing. So there you go. You're one, step up. You can see it. So that's good.
Yeah. It's all good. Yeah. It's all
Or
good and bad simultaneously.
well, it's all good or all bad or something in between. And
Oh, either or.
well, it can be
Dawn, either or.
anything, can't it? It can be anything. It's just perspective, isn't it?
It's just your perspective. Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
in innocence, or whatever you want to call it.
Or
Love.
trying to find it, trying to find the, it's trying to find it both in the situation. It's not all bad, it's not all good. It just finds, I don't know, the middle way. Find it.
We got about 10 minutes. If anyone has there's some comments in there, I'll read those. Thoughts are just completely useless commentary. They have no effect on anything, but nobody can stop them neither. It's a bitch.
How do you know? How do you know they have no effect on anything?
Somebody said actions happen simultaneously with thoughts, but not because of thoughts.
Well, thought without feeling is pretty powerless. Feeling is really powerful, and that creates change in the person, even though there is no one. That's where decision comes from, isn't it? That's where we turn left or right. Just feeling. So the thought springs from that, and sometimes the feeling springs from the thought. So it's all kind of. But the thought is closer to the truth because it's in the body and it's just there. And that's all the rest of your history and the unconscious, which is the unconscious, more or less.
Thought seems so personal in this impersonalization.
But it is, I mean, it is personal in this impersonalized, it is. I mean, it's what's more intimate than your own feelings, your own thoughts. I mean, it's all intimate in the non-dual, but like in the story that we live in time, in the timeless, like, so I'm not dismissive of any of that. I think it's rich. I mean, I think that's, it's where you relate from. That's, you're expressing stuff, your friendships, your relationships, whatever. I mean, okay, you don't need thought for that, but speech and everything else, language is part of that, isn't it? And it's kind of beautiful. I mean, why would we want to get rid of that? It's good. The story is good. It's rich. It's full of like learning. Like there's so much to learning or just interest, and it's yours. It's your own personal fucking story, and you've lived through shit. We've all lived through stuff, like good stuff, bad stuff. It's fucking great. Who wants to get rid of that? Some people do actually. Fair enough. Like, but yeah, when you see its innocence, you don't, there is that love of that. Love extends to that obviously as well, which is a freedom too, isn't it? It's a freedom,
Dawn, when you said that you sort of these days enjoy almost like playing with thoughts, are you sort of saying that you can like choose which thoughts to have and like when to pick them up and when to drop them, or is it not like that? Is it just that it's easier now because you're not attached to them so much and not identifying with them?
Well, within that, I mean, there's certain thoughts you dismiss or not. Like, I mean, no mind states arise by themselves. There seems to be less compulsiveness with thought as well, so that it can be dropped. I know if you're someone who's a freeze responder, you tend to have a trauma response of like freezing, withdrawing, numbing out. There tends to be a greater ability to change the track of the thinking as well. So, some people have more or less compulsivity or, in that ruminative capacity. So it's not just one thing, like, so it feels easy to drop it here. It rises, silence will arise, inner silence or not. And certain thoughts are just like kind of mad and it's like, wow, but yeah, some's good, some's, I don't know, like it's the same as in your head, do you know, like it isn't like, but you know what I mean? Look at what you do. I mean, we all kind of operate, well, not all, but most of us function pretty similarly, don't we? I think you see that, you see the kind of how the mind operates in general a lot more when awakening happens, because the awareness of all the variety of thought, all the negative stuff that's going on. You may not feel that, in which case it doesn't change how you behave, but you'll see it, you'll see those cognitions, but you may not. Once you feel it, then you can change as a result of the feeling of it, but until then you'll just see it. But even then it can be quite a shock, because a lot of thought can be unconscious. So it's, when it comes to light, it's interesting for the first time, when it all starts.
Does more of it come to light then now for you, or after an awakening? Do more unconscious thoughts that you didn't expect come to light?
Well, I think because this is an increase in awareness as well. I mean, so there's bound to be more awareness inside, inner and outer. Obviously there's no inner and outer ultimately, but I mean, I would assume so. But I can't speak in every case, because some people, some people function differently, don't they? And so, yeah.
I just wondering also, what was it you were saying about the freeze state? Were you relating it to the non-dual awakening experience in some way, or?
What do you mean, the free state? What do you mean?
Well, when you said some people can, I think you were talking about how some people can go into freeze, and which I guess is as a trauma response. You were saying, were you relating that somehow to?
No, not to
the
awakening. Just that like some people can switch what they're thinking about. Like maybe it's something really awful, and they don't want to be thinking.
Oh, okay.
Find it easier to do so. And I know, like from Pete Walker's writing on trauma, like he talks about changing the internal channel, which freeze responders find easier to do than other, people who are habituated to one trauma response, you know, so some people are very much freeze responders, and so they find it easier. I mean, that's where maybe someone who's more obsessive or something would find it really difficult. They'd be just stuck, you know, like people who are really
Oh, I see. Okay.
different,
Okay.
or fight responder. He's just very angry all the not, I mean, necessarily all the time, but you know, goes to anger straight away when threatened in some way, you know. So I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's not all to do with non-dual, and it's not all to do with psychological, how the mind functions before and after. Like, it's influenced by different, or can be. So.
Got a couple questions here. Let's see. Do people who ask questions already know the answer they're looking for? I don't know.
They do if they're asking them out of politeness to try to make it like, you know. Probably not consciously.
But I think they have to have some understanding, or they wouldn't be able to formulate a question. In other words, if you really had no clue, you wouldn't even know what to ask. That makes any sense. I know, I don't, I think UG used to say something like that all the time. That you're asking questions about something you already know, or something like that, but
But it wasn't true. Bullshit. Yeah,
CCR, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just saying it's no use to you if it's unconscious. If the answer is unconscious, it's not much use. Let's face it. If you have the answer but you're not aware of it, it's not much use to you, which it kind of is like that. Or like in something that's denied or repressed, it's kind of there and you kind of see it out of the corner of your eye, but you don't quite see it. That's no use either. So.
But sometimes I think there's a recognition. So when this is pointed out, it's like, oh yeah. It's almost like we knew it all along, but just wasn't fully there until it was. And then there was kind of like a coming home.
Like the resonance thing, or?
Yeah, it's just like, oh yeah. Like, I feel like I've known this all along, but it just didn't, just didn't come to the surface or whatever. Like you said, it was sort of subconscious or something. Seemed like it was there, that knowing of this oneness or whatever you want to say was always there. Buried somehow. Well, that's about it. Any burning desires?
Well, anyway, that's why we have the recording, so I can go back and listen and get all the stuff that went over my head. And I have a question. Was there a well-known actor here tonight other than you, Walter?
A well-known actor. Am I a well-known actor?
No. Chet, AKA Hugh Grant.
Oh, is Chet Hugh Grant? Is that why he has his camera off?
Put your camera on, Chet.
All right, she just exposed you.
I'm gonna take a screenshot.
I didn't know Hugh Grant was interested in non-duality. That's great. Well, thanks for coming, Hugh.
Fine, thank you.
Oh God.
Well, there's no specialness.
And yet there is.
It's all the same.
Yet there is. But anyway,
Yeah, and well, that's it. I won't say anything else. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming. Do you want to say anything, Dawn, before
no,
we
just
close?
yeah, thanks for coming. I enjoyed it very much. No. Bye. See you next
It
next
looks
week.
like next Sunday, you got your,
I think it's, oh, sorry.
I was going to say time change.
Yeah, that's it. It's back to 7 o'clock. GMT, whatever it is, British summertime, BST. Yeah, so yeah, 7 o'clock, which is much better.
Okay, so 7 o'clock your time, 2 o'clock my time, which is Eastern Daylight Time. You know, we're all very confused right now. And that's happening on the 27th. So we'll see you same time, same channel next week. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.